Hello and welcome back to a bonus episode of Dungeons and Dragons Planescape Torment Enhanced Edition. We're gonna talk about all of the various planes within the multiverse known as Dungeons and Dragons. Sire Seeker, so tired. Flesh black from negation. I will answer what I can for you, but cannot promise that you will find satisfaction with the answers I give. What would you know? Would you hear the outer planes, the prime material, or the inner planes? Well, what's the difference? The difference is true essence seeker. The inner planes are matter, substance, true physicality. They are the building blocks of the multiverse, for it is from them that all beliefs of the elements springs. The inner planes filter through the eternal plane, the plane of the potential, some say, which forms the elements into the worlds of mortals. Once past the ethereal plane, one reaches the prime material, where exists all matter of mortals and monsters and myths and machines. It is there that the belief is born, and it is there that the spirits that create the outer planes are born. When mortals die, they pass through the astral plane, a no place that is thought and mental energy itself. It is all things and none. It is paradox, among other things, and it filters spirits into the great ring. Do you comprehend so far? Sure. I'm not sure. The inner planes are substance, they create matter. They lead into the prime material plane, which is life and death and birth of thought. Prime leads to the outer plane, which is brief made solid, where the thoughts are given form. Is that easier for you? Let's say if we don't understand. Unfortunately, I've explained as best as I can. Remember this, though. The place that you stand is not true matter, but created by the force of beliefs across all the prime and outer planes. It can be changed by belief and is subject to alteration. It is mutable and changeable with the power of mind alone. Very well, so tell me of the other planes. Would you know the other planes? Ask and I shall tell thee as best as I can. Well, tell me the outer planes. Now, the outer planes, where should I start? You know the cardinal rule of the planes, on which all others are based? Do you know about the composition of the outer planes? Do you know the great ring, the division in our hearts? Do you know of the individual planes? Each of these leads to the next, and so it is best start from the beginning. Alright, tell me the composition of the planes. The outer planes are created by, of and by belief and thought and faith. They take their imagined form from the prime material plane, shaped into forms that stagger the imagination, built by the acclamation of belief. Belief creates the planes. Belief is power here. Change belief and you can change the nature of reality. The creatures that are born here, the plane born, like the fiends and celestials, they are truly born of thoughts and concepts of mortal. They each express some sort of ideal, and the more powerful the ideal, the more powerful the being. Thus, the being that symbolizes love is one of the strongest of all. So, the outer planes, they only exist because we want them to. So, go on. That's why the powers, gods some call, live out there. This is where faith in them comes. This is where they are at the most pure and most strong. Their realms are extensions of their very beings, manifestation of their godly essence. All of it is informed by belief. So the composition of the planes is belief. Tell me of the great ring now. Among those loose unity of planeswalkers, we conceive the infinite outer planes as rings surrounding the plane of ultimate neutrality, the outlands, the spire upon which Sigil sits in the center of the outlands. The further one travels away from the spire, the less neutral the plane grows, until it spills into the neighboring planes. Each of these planes impinges on the outlands, spinning themselves into law and chaos, good and evil. The Great Road marks the demarcation between the outlands and the gates towns that spring up around, and the gates to these planes. Beyond the gates towns lie the hinterlands, changing territories that is lost to history, that loses thought. Danger lies in the hinterlands. Go on. The outer planes differ by morality, not substance. For you, we'll divide the plane into three sets. The upper planes of good, the lower planes of evil, the boundary planes of neutrality. These are further divided by law and chaos. Within the outland is the middle. What do these interest you? Well, let's start from the beginning. The upper planes. Up the upper planes, they're the neutral planes, the lawful planes, and the chaotic planes. What would you know? Neutral planes. Neutral upper areas contain the Beast Lands, a place of neutrality and goodness, with a slight tinge of chaos, where the animals rule in the eternal noon and night. They hold Biopia, twin paradise of industry and labor, where all work towards the good of all, and Elysium, the sweetest plane of goodness and calm that I can ever come across. Alas, right now I'm not well enough to enjoy any of their restorative effects. What would you hear of now? Okay. This was definitely created when, Dungeons and Dragons realized some stuff was not kosher. Because, in the 70s and 80s, back, when I was playing and looking through the Dungeon Master's Guide, one of the main places of the neutral upper planes, lawful neutral, was the Happy Hunting Ground. Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of that bit of racism. I would love to have seen a sort of an allegory for American Indian afterlife, but yeah, what they had was not great. Actually, Dungeons and Dragons has had a history of not great representation of First Nations and American Native peoples. Yeah. Tell me the rest of the upper planes. Tell me the lawful planes. Carradine gives a soft shudder. I am not the best person to speak of the planes of law, he says. For the innate structure and ultimate patterns they oppose frighten me. Steer clear of them because I value my individuality more than I value the knowledge they bring me. They include regimented Arcadia, nearest to the good planes, to the unbending order of Mechanus, and Mount Celestia, home of the Archons, and an island of the Silver Sea. Okay. Tell me the chaotic planes. This is where I feel at home. I steer clear of Ysgard for the most part. The endless battles and tests and metals for the floating earthbergs of the plain don't do much for my disposition. Aboria, though. Their mountains are taller, the air cleaner, the rivers purer, with game larger than anywhere else. It's a true paradise, a place where passions run high, where the wine never ceases to flow. When I have recovered enough of my wits and myself, when you have done with the outer planes, you should ask me of the inner. Well, I will gladly describe my journey to you. I will return to Aboria's bowers and glades and lose myself for a while. Yeah, so Ysgard, or sometimes it's called Asgard, depending on the edition of the book you have. Essentially, chaotic good is, the Viking place. See, tell me the rest of the upper planes. Now tell me part of the planes of the Great Ring. Tell me of the boundary planes. There are two boundary planes to my mind. They are diametrically opposed. One of them, Mechanus, is the very essence of law. A place where beliefs fit together, interlocking, turning in a massive machine that is their entire plane. Some folks will have it that gears of Mechanus are the engine that drives the planes. The other plane is Limbo, a swirling morass of chaos that follows no rules, none. And just when a body thinks that he's classified his behavior, it goes and changes on him. Or it doesn't. You just can't tell. I was in Limbo not too long ago. Tell me of your journey. Closed his eyes, remembering. I had a Githzerai guide me, an anarch who could shape the illogical matter of the plane into forms of his desire. We had fought off the herring of Sladi, chaos creatures who call that plane home. Seems there were more than usual, but then one can't tell what is unusual in Limbo. But I digress. In the midst of all this chaos, we came across a series of huge metal interlocking cubes, like some sort of puzzle box. It wasn't something we had shaped, consciously or not. Couldn't find a way inside. It was like a bastion of order within this confine of disorder. A seed of law. It's the best I can explain it. Well, tell me more about the planes. Well, let's go down to Goblin Town. Lower planes. Unlike the upper planes, the lower planes are divided into lawful, chaotic, and neutral. Each of them vary in the horrors and what these horrors do to a traveler's spirit. And all of them are best avoided. Which of them would you like to hear of? Well, let's start with the lawful one. As much as I detest the order of the lawful upper planes, at least they present a modicum of goodness. Their lower planar counterparts, though. Archon's place of ricocheting cubes that never see an end to battle, swarming with souls of the dead humanoids. Bator. Bator is a place best avoided. Those Bezetu, the fiends in the corner there, are but the merest exposition of the deviant corruption embodied by the soulless machine of order. If you want more, talk to them, but remember, all that is bad about bureaucracy and order originates from Bator. Spreads like a stain across the hearts of mortals. Though there is some knowledge to be found there, it's rarely worth the spiritual rape of the plane inflicts. Tell me about the other places. How about the neutral? The neutral planes, they're vile and barely understandable. They're more insidious on their own than you could ever imagine. Take Guyana, for example. 4 volcanoes in stages of dormancy float in an infinite void, each of them somehow alive, and each of them waiting for your soul by whatever means they can get it. Populated with Yugoloths, the worst of the fiends in my opinion. You got yourself that place. The plane of ultimate evil, at least. That's what they call it. It's the gray waste, and no place that drains color from your body and spirit, stealing away your even your apathy. It's the site of the worst battlegrounds in the war down there. Don't get me started. Then you've got Karsi on the chaotic side. Tell me about Karsi. Karsi, it's a poisonous jungle. Acid swamps, destructive waters, strug like a string of rotten pearls nestled within one another. Pauses and looks at you carefully, again fixing your place within his eyes. Remember this, Seeker. Karsi is a prison, home to the Gethres, one of the most dangerous types of fiends there are. The strength of the prison is the strength of the captor, and as strong as the prisoner lets it be. Destroy the prison keeper, and a body can escape the red prison. There's almost no other way out, not when the gates close themselves against you and watch you spin off to the vast space surrounding the orbs. Be wary of Karasi, traveler, for his bounds can be greater than flesh. Wow, I wonder where we're gonna go in this game. Tell me about the war.
My journal.
The blood war. The name your blood feels it freezes in vain. Ilborn doesn't seem to notice, wrapped as he is in his memories. 2 armies of fiends smashing together pointlessly across the lower plains, slaughtering mindlessly in the name of law and chaos. They'll aggrandize it, of course, but in the end, it's about hate and stupid endeavors that aid none and harms far too many. Tell me about the rest of the lower planes. Lower chaos. The Abyss isn't somewhere you should consider going. Where Bator is all orderly, the Abyss is full of chaos and change. None of it's pleasant. When it becomes something that approximates normality, that's when you should be most wary of it. It's the home of the Tanari, what most primes call demons. They've got that name for a reason. They're unpredictable and murderous, and the few that you can trust are few and far between. The few I have met who I'd trust, I still don't trust entirely. They are creatures of chaos and evil incarnate, and if they're putting on a friendly face, who's to say it's not a part of a larger agenda? Planes of the Great Rings, the Boundary Plane. Oh, we got that, actually. The Outlands. The Outlands are absolute neutrality, perhaps the best place for a body to visit the outer planes outside of Citadel. You don't want to have a place of morality forced upon your heart. Everything balances out in the Outlands, as it should be. For the plane that sits at the center of the outer planes, power realms are scattered about here, and there are handfuls of gate towns that open up into the rest of the outer planes. The gate towns usually mirror the philosophy of the plane that gate's open to, and if the balance and belief isn't kept in the town slips into the nearby plane. It's a bad situation for everyone because few of the folks in the towns really want that change, but enough of the Outlands. What more would you know? Let's see. Planes of the Great Ring. Planes in general. Tell me of the inner planes. He sighs, as if reminded of his bone-deep weariness. Think of the inner planes as a globe. On the top, you have the positive material plane. On the bottom, you have the negative material. He pauses. Remind me to tell you the negative. His eyes turn inward to some private horror. From the interaction between the two strings of all emerge for existence and non-existence, death and life, actuality and nothing. From them spring the basic elemental planes like fire, water, air, earth, the para-elemental planes that lie between the four basic elements, and the quasi-elemental planes that come from the interaction of the four elements with the positive and negative. Tell me of the negative material plane. I went to the inner planes to discover my true essence. I made the mistake of visiting the negative material plane in order to understand my body's urge to decay and the cycle of death and life. I thought myself protected by the ill effects of the plane with my magic, but I was wrong. The blackness of infinite nothing pressed upon my soul. I was beset by shadows that sought to snuff out my very soul. I was lost away for a time, for an eternity, nearly lost my existence. I could never feel my essence falling away from me, and I am now even half gone. Never will I return. How'd you survive? I used the token I gave you and barely held on to my life. Without it, I would have perished internally. Okay, more of the planes. Negation we heard. Other questions. Alright. I guess that's it for all of that talk of the planes. So when we come back, we'll ask about a journal and Farad and continue on within this pub. Yep, a lot of talking on this one. Have a good one, folks.